Welcome, and thank you for taking the time to look into this topic with me. My name is Grace Mills, and this is my presentation on the future of the reference librarian. Today we are going to cover a summary of the project I am doing this semester. First, I'll ask you a question I want you to think on while we go over my project and its findings. I will then give an introduction where I'll start to explain my project, why I chose it, and why it is important to the library industry. Then I will go more in depth on what my topic is about. I will then explain my methodology for gathering and analysing the literature for credibility and themes. I will then illustrate the findings so far, discussing why these are important, and then making recommendations on where researchers and practitioners should go from here. Finishing with a summary and a time to discuss the question posed to you at the beginning. First, the question that we will be focusing on today is, what roles do you know of that have become outdated due to technology? And what happened to them? Or how or why did the technology cause them to become outdated? The traditional role of the reference librarian has become outdated. Many have realized this and started to evolve the role to suit the changing environment or replace it entirely. However, some have insisted on ignoring this change and have hindered the conversation on how this role has evolved. In doing so, the skills necessary for the evolved reference role are unclear, with only one Australian material found so far that gives it full focus. This has led me to conduct a literature review to answer the key research questions of: how has the role of the reference librarian changed in public and academic libraries? And what skills will be needed for the potential new roles? In this presentation, I'm going to show you how I've collected and analysed the material so far to answer these questions. It must be noted that I've not completed the literature review yet, but I'm halfway through the analysis stage. This project will result in a document that illustrates some of the key ways that the reference role has evolved, some of the most important skills necessary to fulfill these roles. Some of the most important skills found so far include traditional reference skills, but in new ways, text skills, and communication skills. This research is of particular importance as the reference librarian role is connected with how librarians in general see their role in their communities and society. So understanding how it has changed and the skills necessary for it directly connect with the skills necessary to be a librarian. Further, it is through understanding what skills are needed in their roles that librarians will be able to better serve their patrons and communities. In this way, this research benefits librarians out in the industry, students learning to be librarians, and instructors creating resources to help develop these skills. I chose this topic because I'd be interested in becoming a reference librarian myself. It also directly relates to my study, as there have been quite a few class discussions on the relevance of the reference role throughout my degree. Also, as Bus illustrated, the future of the reference librarian has implications for the future of librarians in general, which I think makes it an interesting subject for all library practice students. Further, there is a gap in the literature on the skills Australian reference librarians need now and in the future, with only one, Haddo, that looks at this topic as its main focus, and 8 others that either have it as a side element, or they look into one skill while exploring another topic entirely. This topic is important for 2 key reasons. First, as Bus pointed out, this topic is directly related to how librarians see themselves and their role in society, which means that understanding how this role is changing and the necessary skills for it is vital for helping librarians to support the needs of their users. The second key reason, as argued by Haddo, is that the industry is about to see a large number of trained professionals retire and be replaced with new graduates. These new graduates need to know of, and be trained in, the skills necessary for the reference role now and in the future, not how it used to be. This will also directly affect those creating education or professional development programs, as this will provide them further information on the skills necessary to be taught to librarians and those studying library practice. It will also illustrate to researchers where the research on this subject needs to go from here. The objective of this research is to begin to solve the problem by answering the research questions. These questions are: How has the role of the reference librarian changed in public and academic libraries, and what skills will be needed for the potential new roles? The second question is the key question for this research, with the first, how has the role of the reference librarian changed, needing to be answered within this document as well to give context to the discussion and to help me, the researcher, and any readers understand the relevant skills and why they are relevant in the first place. The limitations for this project include that the only researcher is me, and that the only experience I have with a project of this size was the one that I did last semester, that I only have about 13 weeks to do this project, and have other assignments to do in that time as well, that I have a word limit of 10,000 words, which only allows me to go into so much detail in each skill, particularly in comparison to, say, a book. This has in turn impacted on the scope, resulting in the research needing to focus on the most relevant countries to Australia and the most recent years. The change in the role of reference happened for a number of reasons, the key one being the rise in technology, and through this rise, a greater access to information for the patrons, but also a greater need for information literacy. Other reasons include decreasing funding in the industry and increasing focus on client services and high-level research, particularly in universities. But as Kenny has illustrated in this quote, despite the change to the role of the reference librarian, despite the rise in technology that has primarily created this change, many in the industry still refuse to accept this change and adapt. In order to meet the needs of users and this change in the industry, a greater understanding of the reference librarian's new role and the necessary skills needed in that role is vital. To do this though, we need an understanding of what the new roles are, and through this, what skills are needed now and will be needed into the future. Finally, it is important to note that my research is focusing on both the academic and public library environments within Australia, as although the environments are different, they are both facing many of the same challenges in regards to reference, and the skills found will largely be applicable to both. This was illustrated by O'Gorman and Trotz, as well as Thrope's research into both environments. The materials were collected using keyword, citation, reference list, and related article searches. Within these searches, a number of tools were used to get the most relevant results, including Boolean operators, brackets, phrases, fields, the peer-reviewed limiter, the year limiter, and limiting to particular databases in ProQuest. The databases and search engines used included ProQuest, Taylor and Francis Online, Science Direct, QUT QuickFind, Google Scholar, and Google itself. The first part of my analysis stage was to create a short list of articles using the criteria illustrated on the right. The articles had to be published within the last 15 years, have relevancy to the overall topic, have credible authors and publishers, be peer-reviewed, be cited by other pieces of literature, be supported by evidence rather than opinion, and be published in a relevant country, with Australia being the most relevant, followed by New Zealand, Canada, the UK, and the United States. These were then read and examined more thoroughly to determine if they were truly relevant to the problem or in answering the questions. From this, 25 materials have been determined to be of the highest quality and or relevance to review. Here's a snapshot of materials I have begun to analyse, in case you are interested. These amount to less than a third of the total. After I collected the first 20, I started to analyse these materials for their key themes, which will form the basis of my findings. I am doing this through the use of tables and a concept map. I am using the tables to organise key quotes under themes, arguments, and other important information. The concept map is being used as an overarching guide for what themes have been found, how they are interconnected, and which ones seem to be the most important or discussed. Through this, I will also be able to better see any gaps in the literature. Now, before I begin, I would like to reiterate that this project is unfinished, and as such, some of these findings could be changed or added to as more pieces of literature are fully analysed. My first key finding is that every library has adapted to change differently. For as had I found, duties can change drastically between libraries and librarians, and some even feel that their role should not be referred to as reference, despite the clear links. Which brings us to who is the new reference librarian. I have found that the new reference librarian is teaching and creating resources and programs to help people learn, and particularly help them learn information literacy. Is doing readers advisory services, and they are even doing them online through social media, is researching. And for one library in particular, this has become its own specific role. And they are still doing traditional reference, just changed to new mediums or to suit specific groups or situations. One example of this is how some reference librarians are still doing rather similar roles to what they used to do, just purely online. Which brings us to one of my other key findings, and I cannot emphasize this enough as it is found in nearly every resource. The new reference librarian is online and using technology. Nearly every new and remodeled role has a reference librarian using technology and the internet to some extent. This is emphasized in this first example of the QUT library system. Here we can see many of the new reference communication methods used in Ferguson and Ferguson that reference librarians use today to help students. There is a large range from a medium where the student has no direct contact with the librarian, here turn the popular library facts and questions in the top left-hand corner, to another where the student sees the librarian in person at a service point, with many variations in between. This brings us to the second half of my findings and the focus for this research, the important skills necessary for the reference librarian. These skills are knowledge of how to use this new technology, communication skills, with online communication gaining particular relevance, adaptability, so that reference librarians are able to evolve with changes in technology and potentially further changes to their roles, teaching and evaluating skills, and reference skills. However, there is a debate on the usefulness of the traditional reference interview and how it should be updated for communication online. Further, also found in the literature was a debate on whether it is better for students to have a bachelor's or master's qualification, but I'm still examining this. In this final example, we can see a library class on how to use technology, which I feel emphasizes the need for reference librarians to have tech skills, communication skills, and teaching skills to be able to run classes like this, and through these services, support the needs of their patrons. The findings illustrate to librarians and library practice students what skills they need to develop and some of the most common new reference duties. Through this, these groups will be better equipped to meet the needs of their users in this technology and information-rich environment. It further has the potential to endorse change for those libraries who have been previously ignoring the change by illustrating to them ways they can adapt to better meet the needs of their users. It will also impact what kinds of skills educators and creators of professional development programs focus on when creating their resources, hopefully creating more industry-wide change towards better serving the needs of users. Finally, it will impact future research by illustrating the lack of research into skills for the evolved reference role. My first recommendation is that any librarian who sees these findings should seriously rethink how they structure their reference services currently, if they haven't already, and consider whether they are sticking to the outdated model when the patrons are indicating that they need something different. Second, before developing any skills, I recommend that librarians examine the specific changes made in their libraries to determine what skills are most important for their services specifically, and further develop them. Third, tech skills in particular need to be developed above all, and how to communicate effectively in an online environment, as well as teaching skills, should also be key areas for development. I further recommend that more research is done on what is the best qualification for a student of library practice to be working towards. This is important because the information on this worldwide is contradictory, and the only reference to it in Australia was as a side element of Haddo, who was focusing on important skills more generally. Finally, further research needs to be conducted to determine if these skills found here are truly the most relevant in the library environment. It should be noted that these studies should determine solid definitions of the different skills they are exploring, and define their scope from the start, as these are found to be problems within quite a few of the resources that focus on necessary skills as a topic worldwide. So today we have examined the topic of how the reference librarian role has changed, and what skills we needed to fulfill it into the future. I have explained how the change in reference is being ignored, and the impact it has on librarians and students' ability to develop appropriate skills. I have argued that it is important that librarians develop the right skills to serve their patrons. I've illustrated how I collected and started to analyze 25 resources through the use of tables and a concept map. I've explained my findings thus far, including, most importantly, that every library is different, that traditional reference skills themselves are still needed in new ways, that text skills are paramount to all new roles of the reference librarian, and that communication skills, particularly for communicating through these new mediums, are vital to develop. I've also determined that there are two key areas that need further research, including necessary skills specifically in the Australian library environment and what qualifications are most desired for students into the future. In this way, I hope I have illustrated to you the importance of this issue for librarians and libraries, and have given you ideas for your own professional development. Thank you for taking the time to explore this topic with me, and I hope you learned something, or at least enjoyed it. Now we will move on to the question time. Now, what roles do you know to have become outdated due to technology? Please leave your comments below. Two key examples that I know of are factory workers and miners, where a lot of positions once done by people have been replaced by machines or adapted but completely remodeled to fit the new environment. I also think that it can be argued that nearly every role in society has been impacted by the rise in technology in some way, from Uber to self-serve checkouts to sophisticated robots that help to perform surgeries. Because of this, I thought that this question, related to one of the key factors that led to the change in the reference role, was one you would all be able to relate to from your own experiences. I also hope it makes you think about how the world in the library is changing with technology, and start thinking about what skills you may need to develop. Here are my list of references. And here are my image references.